Welcome to Adventures in Evaluation podcast with James Coyle and Kylie Hutchinson. Hi, I'm James Coyle. I'm an internal evaluator in a large regional health authority.
And I'm Kylie Hutchinson, and I'm an external evaluator. And together we make Adventures in Evaluation. Hey, James, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I had to turn on the air conditioning for the first time this year. It's actually hot.
Wow, that's why they call it climate change, right?
Well, it's Kelowna. It's a desert, so it's nice and warm.
Yeah. Hey, we have a special guest this week.
Yes, talking about bringing up the temperatures. It's going to be hot soon in Toronto because we got a big event coming up.
We do. And we thought we would bring in Dayna Albert and her colleague, Dawn, who will be coming in later on, to talk to us about the upcoming Canadian Evaluation Society Conference in Toronto this summer. So Dayna Albert, welcome.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Yeah. So Dayna, do you want to just talk a little bit about who you are and what you're doing for the conference?
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, I have volunteered to chair the workshop committee of the CES 2013 conference that will be held in Toronto this June. So it was a really fun job. I got to look into all of the feedback that we have received from past conference participants about what they wanted to see with respect to future workshops, did a lot of research, and I think we've put together some really exciting workshops.
That's great to hear, Dayna, and I know you and I had talked when you were first starting to research all of this, and I was really impressed by the really comprehensive research that you were doing on this. You weren't just kind of saying, can we have some workshop, please, and taking what kind of dumped on your desk, but you actually did a lot of background digging. And what kind of things were you finding out?
Well, there were a couple of things that really stood out for me. One, through the past surveys that I'd looked at, it was really evident that our participants wanted to have more advanced level workshops. They felt that there were just too many kind of beginner level workshops, and we always need those. So we put out a big call for more intermediate and advanced level workshops, and we got that. So that's very exciting. The other thing that I noticed was that people wanted to have a greater variety of workshops. They didn't want to have just the same old, basic logic model and basic quantitative. They wanted to have a variety of new things, and we specifically went out and looked for, what was hot, what was new, as well as some of the standard basics that you always need to have.
So you're piquing my appetite. I got to know. So what's on the list? What's new and hot? Since I think you're right, we want to move beyond the kind of sessions we've already been to. The regular conference is great, but a workshop really allows you to get into something meatier. So what's on the list?
Well, I'm glad you asked, James. I have to tell you, I'm so excited about this list. I actually want to go to every single one of these workshops, and there's 22 of them for one day. So that's going to be a bit of a challenge. But just to give you a bit of an overview, we have right now 8 full-day workshops. We have 7 morning workshops and 7 afternoon workshops. So there's a huge amount of choice. That's like a total of 22 workshops. Of those, 5 of them are beginner level workshops. And by beginner level, it just means that you don't really need to have much in the way of background to attend the workshop.
Right.
We have 12 intermediate level workshops, and we have 5 advanced level workshops.
Great. Well, what are some of the ones that are in the beginner? I would guess there's probably, logic models. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Surprise! No, the logic model workshop is actually advanced.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's advanced approaches to evaluation frameworks that's being given by the dynamic duo of Gauthier and Roy.
Right.
Constants at our workshops, but always highly evaluated workshop facilitators.
Yeah, so that's in the advanced?
Yes,
What else is it? Well, let's start there then. What else is in the advanced?
Well, there are a couple of different workshops I was wanting to highlight for you. So let me just pull them out. I hadn't really looked at them in that particular order, but here's one. Lessons from the practice of using culture-based approaches in First Nation settings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure a lot of your listeners know Andrea L.K. Johnson,
Mm-hmm.
who's an Aboriginal herself, as well as the CEO of Johnston Research. I took her workshop on the Wawayeya evaluation tool a couple of years ago at CES.
Oh, I did that too. I did it at AEA. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was really great. And the reason I took it is because I was swiped one day when I was giving just a very brief evaluation presentation by two gentlemen from Northern Ontario, Aboriginals, who really took a big bite out of me, I guess, about the standard approach to evaluation and how it didn't speak to our Aboriginal communities. And I had a chat with them afterwards and really got the bug into wanting to understand more about cultural approaches to evaluation. So that's why I signed up for Andrea's workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And she's given her basic Wawayeya workshop many, many times, and it's excellent. But this year, she's doing an advanced level workshop. So this is really geared at people who've had some experience working with culture-based evaluation, specifically in the Aboriginal community, and want to take it further. So in their workshop, in her workshop, she's going to review the culture-based evaluation success story. She's going to look at experience and lessons learned from the field, as well as some of the reports they've used, where they've used cultural knowledge and technological evaluation tools, and discuss how these methods could help enhance your own reports. They're also going to be looking at culturally focused facilitation methods such as open space, photo visualization, group discussion, wax modeling, breathing techniques, etc., and discussing how to overcome any difficulties you experience with evaluation communities in Aboriginal settings.
Oh, that sounds great. Okay. So, yeah, you've piqued my interest with that one. So what else do you have?
Well, let's see. This is something I'm really interested in. Web Analytic Toolkit for Evaluators. Do you have much experience in web analytics?
So is that, when you say web analytics, is that collecting data and information on the traffic to your website and using that to make inferences, or?
Absolutely. Being able to incorporate web and social media data into monitoring and evaluation work.
I just got off the phone with someone talking exactly about that issue. We've launched, we'll talk about this some other time, Kylie and I, a mentorship matching software, and that's a big piece of what we need to know because the program really is all virtual, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, I did an evaluation of a kind of a website, a whole social media intervention about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was actually during the CES conference in Victoria, because I remember I was working on the final report at the same time as being at the conference. There was so many different tools out there for analytical tools out there that I felt like Alice falling down the hole because I didn't know which ones were good, which ones weren't. There was no kind of standard, and I could have used this workshop for sure 3 years ago. So that sounds really interesting.
Is that a full day or half day?
It's a full day workshop, and you have an expert. Well, there's two facilitators, so you get 2 for 1. Brian Kugelman has an extensive career in social mobilization, digital engagement, and program evaluation, and he actually obtained his PhD in online social marketing with the Statistical Cybermetrics Research Group. So
Wow.
He's really knowledgeable.
That's great.
And then Marla Steinberg, a colleague of both of ours,
That's right.
will be facilitating this workshop as well.
That's great. Marla's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's next then? These are great.
Well, something that's always near and dear to my heart is evaluation capacity building. So we have a morning or a half-day session at the intermediate level called Building Evaluation Capacity and Culture. And this is being given jointly by Dr. Karine Chater and Dr. Nancy Carter out of Nova Scotia.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we covered it, but so are all the workshops before the main conference? Are they happening before and after? I think it's just, did you say it was just one day?
Yes, they're all before the conference this
Right.
year, so they're pre-conference workshops.
So you're
So
not
they're
all
being
burnt out. You're just getting ready. You're showing up in town.
you're fresh,
You're
absolutely.
fresh.
So learning will be optimal. Yeah, so June 9th. And it's being held at the Fairmont Royal York Hotel, which is, one of those beautiful old hotels. About a 10-minute walk from the lakefront.
Oh, great location.
Absolutely. June in Toronto is a beautiful month, and it'd be great if people could have the chance to walk down to the lakefront, take a ferry to the islands, rent bicycles. I mean, there's so much to do.
But just in the time that we have left, probably have time for about one more. Dayna, is there any other one that really kind of excites you that's coming up?
Well, actually, there's 3 others.
Okay.
So maybe I can touch on them briefly.
Sure, quickly.
And I'm glad you mentioned Stephanie Evergreen, because I did want to highlight the fact that this year at CES 2013, we've attracted some really big names in evaluation to come and give workshops. And one of them is David Fetterman. And I've heard him speak at AEA in the past, and he's a great presenter. He's such a friendly guy. He's so open, and he really makes people feel included and heard. And so he's really enjoyable. So he's giving his empowerment evaluation workshop. Empowerment evaluation is something that he coined and that he has developed over the years. So that's a beginner level workshop, a full day workshop. And he's also participating in our Meet the Author networking and book signing event that we're holding on Monday, June 10th, over the lunch hour period. So that maybe allows me to segue briefly into telling you a little bit about that event, if you'd like to hear.
Go ahead.
So on your lunch hour, which is currently open on the Monday, unlike Tuesday, which is the awards luncheon, Monday no one has anything to do, so they can now drop by at any time between noon and 1:30 to this networking event. And we're going to be having people such as, with recent books out, such as Gail Barrington, Jane Davidson, Stephanie Evergreen has a new book coming out in the fall, Hallie Preskill has her books, and Robert Schwartz will all be available. You can schmooze with them, you can chat with them, you can buy their books at 30% off, and they'll even sign a book plate for you. So that's going to be a really fun event, and we're encouraging people to just come on by. And you can even pick up we're going to be giving out little raffle tickets so that you could win a prize, a book as well.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
I'd also like to tell you about a workshop being given by Dr. Valentine Gandhi, whom Kylie, understand you met while you were in Africa.
That's correct, yeah. What are the chances? He's in Lusaka, of all places, where I was. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's, I only met him a couple of times, but he's kind of like this international citizen of the world. He's lived and worked all over the world. He's extremely well versed in evaluation in an international development context, and very, very interested to hear what he's presenting on.
And he's the founder of the Development Cafe, which is a social networking group for people working in development evaluation. So his workshop is a full-day intermediate level workshop, and it's called Using Innovative ICT Tools, and ICT stands for Information and Communication Technologies, for effective evaluation of social impact, case studies from Africa, and live demonstration. And then the one that Kylie was really wishing she could go to, Jane Davidson, she's coming all the way up from New Zealand, Auckland, New Zealand. And every year she goes to AEA, she's a huge hit, and her workshops sell out ahead of time. Mm-hmm. And this year, for us, she's doing a full-day workshop on causal inference for qualitative and mixed methods. And this workshop will demonstrate 8 practical common sense strategies to build an evidence base for causal contribution. So that's a not to be missed also.
Jane's an amazing presenter. She's just extremely engaging. And so, yeah, I would highly recommend that workshop to people.
So that's we only talked about 6 or 8, and there's so many more.
So anything else before we move on to find out more about the actual conference?
That's everything. I'd be happy to share the workshop information that you can put on your website, and look forward to meeting everyone in June at CES 2013 in Toronto.
Great. Dayna, thank you so much for spending time with us. I really appreciate it.
Now we've been able to get Don Campbell-Borland here to join the call as well. Don, you've been traveling for a while, so I'm glad that we were able to get you at the last minute. And Don, did you just want to explain a little bit about yourself and what your involvement with the conference is?
Hi, Kylie. Yes, actually, I'm the program chair for this year's 2013 national meeting. I'm a member of the Ontario board, and as a volunteer with the board, Shirley had asked me Shirley von Sikowski, who is our conference chair, had asked me if I'd like to get involved, and thrilled to be included in this year's team.
That's great. And I think it's interesting to note that you are a volunteer, that everybody involved with organizing the conference, they're all volunteers, aren't they?
Indeed, they are, Kylie. And, I think it's, certainly that comes with challenges, but it's also a great way to bring our Canadian community as volunteers, and certainly we're working across different sectors, evaluators, practitioners, researchers. And so I think it brings, certainly, it's as volunteers, we're donating our time and our energy, but I think it brings a certain really interesting dynamic to conference planning, because we're really representing the work that evaluators do in our communities.
Absolutely. So what have we got to look forward to this year at this year's conference?
Well, actually, this year we've got a lot to look forward to. We've tried to not exactly shake up the conference program, but really add a little bit of a twist to it to make sure that it's really reflecting the evolving nature of evaluation practice. If you've been on the conference website, you would have seen that we've got a great slate of keynotes, and they're really bookending our conference in a terrific way. So we've got Hallie Preskill, who'll be joining us on day 1 as the opening keynote. And what we asked Hallie to do was really just shake it up a little bit for us, be a bit controversial. So we're really looking forward to her opening remarks and to setting the stage. George Roeder, Engineers Without Borders, is going to take the stage on day 2. And so together with a really fantastic mix of papers that our community are presenting, we expect that Hallie and then George, who's going to talk about what evaluation is like in Africa, is really going to provide a provocative and exciting 2 days. On day 3, again, thinking about how we deliver a conference format and structure that reflects our theme, we're going to be using that time to bring the threads of the first 2 conference days together. And John Gargani and Sanjeev Sitaran from Toronto, who many of you likely know, will be bringing it home. And we hope that both through the really stimulating kinds of talks that people have got prepared across lots of very interesting topic areas, together with our keynotes and the way in which we've structured the conference, expect that it'll be lots of fun, very stimulating, and informative.
It's the first time I can hear a relationship between the keynotes and some of what you're talking about, or rather the theme of the conference, which is evaluation across boundaries. Was there a lot of thought put into trying to have a relationship between the theme and the keynotes and what you want people to present?
Absolutely. I think this was when we started our original planning and really were thinking about what was topical for evaluators and our evaluation community. Where are we seeing the challenges? What does across boundaries mean? And we really looked at that broadly, methodological, geographic,
Right.
etc. And so we wanted to really ground the meeting in those questions about what does this mean for us? How do we have a conversation about what it means to do this work now, and what does that look like in the years ahead? And so our keynotes really have, I think, bring that perspective. And so, yeah, it was purposeful, James, absolutely, but bottom line.
So, John, I want to ask you, I know that a lot of people listening right now, they may be working for an organization with budget cutbacks and there's no money for travel or professional development, or they may be self-employed people like myself kind of questioning, do I have the money? Should I spend the money to go to Toronto this year? What are some of your arguments to kind of help those people make a decision?
Well, it is a question, right? When funding constraints are everywhere, and we're being asked to defend our decisions around where we want to be spending our professional development dollars, I would say that this is a really unique opportunity for those practicing and evaluation, and more broadly, as we think about not just those who might be focused in evaluation, but allied folks as well. It's an opportunity to obviously to learn and benefit from the work of your peers. But it's a bit of a pause in our day. I think we've all experienced our work life is becoming increasingly busy. There's lots of information at our fingertips. But sometimes what we need is that opportunity to reflect and synthesize and just talk with our colleagues and peers about where are our challenges? How do we move this practice forward? Where do we make sense in the work we're doing, given the convergence of different disciplines? So I think this is both an opportunity for learning and professional growth, but it's a bit more than that, actually. And I think it's an opportunity, when there are so few of them, to have a little bit of a pause in our professional life and just to reflect and think about what are we doing in our individual practice, and what does that mean for the communities we serve.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other benefit too, I think it's sometimes easier if it's in a central location like Toronto, where you've got all the infrastructure. It's a city obviously used to having conferences like this, but it's a little bit closer for a lot of members. I mean, I would have to come all the way from BC, but it's perhaps a little bit easier than if you're putting out the conference on one end or the other end of Canada, I guess.
Absolutely. I mean, I think that, it's great that it's in Toronto. I mean, I think some folks who are out west may bemoan that, but you're right, James. I mean, it does in some respects make it a little easier sometimes. I mean, all roads, I think, but it's easy to get a flight, and hopefully you're right that from a practical perspective, it's a little simpler.
Wanted to get your advice on new attendees to the conference. So there's, we've all been there the first time we go to a conference. I mean, we don't know what to expect, how to prepare, how to manage our energy and time in the day. Any tips for folks that have never been to this conference?
Pace yourself.
We hear that a lot. How do you pace yourself, or how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think that I would say, there's going to be lots to see and participate in, for sure. I think it's maybe a little bit of divide and conquer. What are the main things that you want to get out of it? And do a little planning, I would say. Look at the program, think about things that are most meaningful to you. And you can't do everything.
Right.
But and so to focus on those things that you really think that are gonna get you the traction that you're looking for, and then rely on your peers and colleagues. There's going to be lots of opportunity for sharing and discussion. So maybe it's a bit of, like I said, divide and conquer, where you can also use your colleagues to report back and maybe over a glass of wine at the end of the day, share your experiences.
Don, we've heard about the great lineup of workshop presenters and also the keynote speakers. What are the kind of highlights are there that people would want to know about?
Yeah, great keynotes and highlights. I think one of the really fun things that we're doing on day 2, Tuesday, June 11th, is there's an opportunity to participate in an experiential activity with the Pathways to Education program at Regent Park in Toronto. So that was a really great opportunity that one of our volunteers brought to us. And it's a terrific opportunity for folks to get grounded in a really great evaluation story, and to hear about what that means for folks who were part of that program. So it's results focused, a little bit of a think tank, but really grounded in real life evaluation and the story of those kids who took part in that Pathways program. So that's kind of a really fun and interesting way to bring evaluation to life in the Toronto context. In terms of papers and presentations, really it runs the gamut, Kylie. We have Steve Montague and his team doing a great piece of work on policy evaluation and some really interesting methodological work they've been doing. There's going to be lots that's interesting there.
Steve is great. Yeah. He's also what people might not know is Steve Montague is a fabulous cartoonist as well.
I did not know that.
He's a fabulous, but he's a very, very fun guy. Yeah. Okay, go on.
Yeah. So so that's great. Martha McGuire and folks from Right to Play and MasterCard Foundation are getting together to do a fireside chat on developmental evaluation and the links to the work of eval partners that folks might know about in the UNICEF and that work that's been going on. And that's going to be a really, really interesting segment talking about capacity building primarily in Africa. So on that, Keiko Shikatani, many of folks would know from the National Board of Canadian Evaluation Society, is going to be doing a great talk with folks in the education sector. So they're talking a lot about performance, accountability metrics, evaluation in the education community, and that's going to be, again, a bit of a panel think tank opportunity for folks to come together and talk about those challenges and the opportunities in that sector. So those are some examples. Does that give you a flavor?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about another one you've got there, speed mentoring for new practitioners and students.
Yeah, that's a great one. Thanks for bringing that one up. I think it's part of our responsibility as maybe more experienced folks in the field to think about how we bring along our new practitioners. And so the student new practitioner group, we wanted to make sure we were including them in a way that made sense. And they actually suggested that, how could we connect more actively with all the great folks who are going to be at the meeting. So we've got a number of presenters and participants at the meeting who are going to be coming together to talk to our students and new practitioners about their experiences. How did they what kind of a career path did they have? How did they get into the field? What are some of the challenges that they underwent? So it's a really fun, again, way for folks to get exposure to the broader network of their colleagues and to learn from each other.
Great. Sounds fun.
It will be, yeah.
I wanted to ask about logistics, things like what are the hotel options and what is the availability like at those options and things like that.
We encourage folks to use the conference website. There's some options there. The Royal York is the conference location, and if you can stay at the Royal York, there's a conference rate available to you. If that doesn't work, there are lots of other options in Toronto. The Royal York, as many folks know, is right across from the Union Station, But around that whole area, there's a Hilton and a Sheraton. There's bed and breakfasts if folks want to go down that road. And those, I think all of those options, Kylie, are good. But if you can, for sure, stay at the Royal York and participate as fully as you can in all the aspects of the meeting.
So, apparently my mother tells me when I was a small child, they took me into the lobby of the Royal York and I looked around and gasped and said, "Oh, when I'm a grown-up lady, I want to stay here."
Yeah, it does have a very, that sort of CP rail there's that element of tradition, which is really appealing. But it's still easy enough to get around and friendly enough that I think it's actually a terrific conference venue. And then, lots of restaurants, other things to do in Toronto, just to get out, and hopefully our weather will be lovely and warm. Sit on a patio somewhere with your friends and old and new. Always fun.
So I also just see last night on Twitter that the early bird deadline for the CES 2013 conference has been extended to May 17th. So we'll want to get this podcast out early and encourage everybody to register.
Absolutely. That extra week hopefully will make a difference and encourage folks to get those registrations in and their plans made.
Great.
Thanks, Dawn. This has been really great. Appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
Well, thank you to both of you, James and Kylie. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you both in June.
Yeah, we'll be there. So, Mr. Coyle, do you want to do the wrap-up?
You bet. So for anybody who's interested, we'd love to hear from you. We'd like to hear your advice, your requests, your protests, particularly for Kylie. Please feel free to contact us on our website, adventuresinaevaluation.podbean.com, or you can email us directly at adventuresinaevaluationpodcast@gmail.com. So, everybody, thanks again for recording today's podcast, and hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.